It was a bad day for the Delta saw, y'all. Delta saw went out. Kaput. I don't know exactly what happened, but the blade started vibrating violently when I was turning it off. And the saw over the last few months gotten really loud. So I had a feeling the bearings might be going out or something. Anyways, I ended up opening it up where the belt system is, and the belt was shredded. I guess it had been wallowing around in there for a while. It had eaten away around some of the casing. That wasn't good. I think the fix, from what I gathered from the customer service, it would probably cost me around $1,300 to fix this and get a brand new saw for what, $1,500–$1,600 most places, I think. I decided I am upgrading to the SawStop. I already went and purchased it, got it sitting right there, because it was very difficult to get out of the truck. It's about 300 pounds in the box. I went ahead with I got the contractor SawStop with the mobile base, and I went ahead and got the brake system for the dado. Yes, you got to buy the brake system separate for the dado stack. It's two different ones, so I'm not super keen on that. That's going to be one of the things I think with the saw I'm not going to like, but we'll see. What I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to unbox it, kind of show y'all. I'm going to put it together. I'll tell you anything that's weird or whatever. And I guess I'll start using a SawStop for the future of EPS Garage. Anyways, stay tuned. Quick pause with this really quick. I'm already impressed. I don't get impressed often, especially with tools, because they all seem so cheap. But right off the bat, this owner's manual is ridiculously nice. Large print, very easy. The drawings in it are very detailed, and the pictures, really nice pictures. The entire thing is in English. There's not English, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese all in one manual in tiny little writing. So very impressed with that. Let's look at the Delta manual while I still have it before the saw's gone. Okay, so a little difference here. This is the Delta manual, and when I got my Delta, I thought it was kind of uptown, you know, like, man, this is a nice saw. And it is a nice saw. Don't get me wrong. I love my Delta. It was a great saw, but it just went kaput on me, and I'm not going to put any more money into it. But writing way smaller, pictures way less, just black and white. I mean, this right here, big difference. Of course, price point's a big difference too. Assembly instructions. Look at this. It's like a whole poster. I mean, that's pretty nice. Anyways, I had to talk about that. Let's get back to putting it together. Next thing I noticed that is really awesome on this. Here's the assembly instruction poster. Notice colored blue. The hardware pack matches the poster. And then when you flip it over, so these continue to here, and then you go on to hardware pack number 2, and you have these, and they all match. Like, that is insanely good instructions. Once again, already impressed. Hardware pack, pretty cool. They gotta make it really easy for you. Maybe I'm just not used to instructions being this good, but yeah, these instructions are great. And the way they design the hardware for every section, you just peel back the back of the label. You don't have to cut anything, y'all. Very nice, went together really well. For the entire assembly of the saw, what you're gonna need as far as tool-wise, an 8mm socket, a 10mm wrench, 2 13mm wrenches, and a level or straight edge. The only thing left is the feet, which really quick and easy. But I wanted to point out something that you want to keep in mind in case you don't read all the instructions. Make sure that you don't tighten all the bolts. And it tells you this in the instructions, but you know, some people get in the motion of going and they don't read them. But make sure you don't tighten them all up, because these top ones are going to be important that they're lined for when you put the saw base on there. What I did is I took the saw base bolts, I made sure they all fit, before tightening up all my nuts. Then I went through and tightened up all my nuts. Now I know that the saw base, or the saw, will fit on here, and I won't have to worry about loosening bolts and nuts later when I'm trying to put it on here. So just a little tip that I noticed while putting this together. Let's get back to it. I got my feet put on all four corners, and it's at this part of the instructions, number 9, where it notes that if you bought the contractor saw mobile base, then at this point you're going to switch to the mobile base and attach it to this portion. I did get the mobile base. It was about $299 extra, but as y'all know, in my little tiny garage, I had to be mobile and move everything around as I need it. A little contradictory, just to give you the heads up before you do this. The instructions, after you apply the wheels and so forth to your mobile device, it has you put it in between in this location. I couldn't get it in this location. It was way too tight, and I kind of scratched up my paint here. Kind of upset me, but anyways, it's on the inside. Anyways, what I ended up having to do is loosen the inner bolts here in order to fit this in here. Otherwise, it wasn't going without damaging this. And the reason why that's contradictory is because this has you tighten all the bolts on the last step before applying mobile base. You call them mobile mount. Before you do this step, go ahead and loosen those inner bolts, and you'll be able to put it in here a lot better and maybe not jack up your base like I did.
And this situation was the same on the other side, so I had to loosen those bolts on the other side in order to get the other piece to fit in between the legs. So just a heads up on that. After that, it went really smooth.
This is to the ground position, can't move it. You have a foot pedal, raises all your casters, and then when you're ready to set it down, you touch the unlocking and it's set. Pretty good design.
Had to get in the garage for the night, and y'all, this thing is heavy. You might want to think about having 2 people help you with this whenever you're putting it together. Just FYI. Well, looks like my microphone wasn't working. This is great. Well, anyways, y'all, I'll just ad-lib. Blah, 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 blah. This will probably help make this video shorter without me blabbing. Well, the next portion of this was getting the actual saw onto the base, and I will tell y'all right now, this is a 2-person operation. Again, microphone wasn't working. Who knows what I was blabbering about? Probably something about this. But anyways, you want to get somebody to help you. It's 140 pounds just to get the saw on the base, so get somebody to help you put it on there. I recruited my neighbor to help me, and he was more than happy to help. Once I got it on there, very easy, put the bolts in and tighten those down. Extension wings were pretty straightforward. You will want to make sure you level the side nearest the table that you're screwing it into to the table, and then later on the outer portion, when you put the rails on, you'll be able to level those. Well, obviously I got to order a new mic because it's not working. Basically, that's it. After the wings, you have the switch box, which is just 2 screws, really simple, and then you're done. And the instructions tell you you're done. It's kind of funny because they say, hey, congratulations, you're all done. But then right below it says, hey, don't use the saw without your rip fence. So that's a whole nother set of instructions and paneling, and that's what we'll get to next. Again, SawStop kind of surprised me in quality. I went ahead and got everything unwrapped on my premium fence assembly. It comes with a set of very nice instructions again. And it's all in English. It doesn't have both in there, so everything, there's room for everything to be nice and big and nice pictures. It comes with the cool poster, color coded. So anything that has hardware matches the hardware they give you. On the back, it's easy open perforated like before. So same deal. I'm gonna go ahead and the fence assembly on there. Cool. Something to note here on the fence instructions when you get to it. This is for both the professional cabinet saw and the contractor saw. So when you see PCS, that is professional cabinet saw procedure, and CNS is the contractor saw, or CNS. And it took me a second to kind of figure that out, just to make sure I was using the right procedure, but that's a little heads up. Again, y'all, the instructions are really simple. You just have to make sure to read them. There's some little notes in there, and you got to make sure you're following the instructions for your saw, whether you have the professional cabinet saw or the contractor saw. Other than that, I mean, there wasn't a lot to give you as far as tips here. Quick little mistake here, not a big deal, but there's some shorter bolts. They're number 1s on here, and you really got to read the instructions carefully. They go on the back side of the saw, and I ended up using the number 2. Well, it's important. You need more number 2s later, so you got to have those 4 number 2s left. So you got to make sure you use the number 1s on these back when you're doing this contractor saw. So real easy. I was just going to take the number 2s out, and I'll replace them with number 1s. They tell you in the instructions when you're adding this little assembly that you may need somebody to help you. Quick tip, if you're by yourself, you can use, if you have any, one of these little roller stands. I have a couple of them in my shop, and I just used it under it to make sure it was level and to hold it in place. Adding the fence tube and actual fence was a breeze. Y'all just follow the instructions. You will need some 16th inch shims to make it a little easier. I always link these shims that I use to come in different sizes in the description if you're wanting them, but I use them all over the shop. But other than that, it was very simple setup. That's it, y'all. Got it assembled. After you're done with the fence assembly, saw is pretty much done, unless you want anything extra on it. Like, I haven't dealt with the dust collection system yet. It's got a big 4-inch round piece down there that I've got to look into and see what I can do on that. I don't know if I want to go through the SawStop one or see if there's some type of aftermarket one I can apply to that. Only one thing left for me to do that is very important, and that is read my owner's manual. Y'all, read your owner's manual. I can't tell you enough how important that is. At least read the parts that you're going up to. Like when you're getting ready to use the saw, use that. If you're getting to use it a dado, use that. Whatever part, read it as you go if you need to, instead of just the whole thing. But there's a lot of things these things can tell you that you may or may not know about your equipment, and I recommend that on all your equipment. Things that I liked on this right off the bat before using it: the quality, hands down. Thick tabletops, even though this isn't cast iron, it's a thick gauge. I'd say at least probably 11 gauge would be my guess. The cast iron top and the saw body itself seemed really robust and quality. The fence system, when you lock it down, it does not move. It is a very quality, and I think from what I was told, this was recently upgraded about a year ago with the saw system, so that's good to know. The way it rolls, y'all, I mean, this is ridiculous. My Delta was, you know, like it was not like that. That's what I like about it so far, just overall quality. What I don't like about it right off the bat, well, if you use dados, you're gonna have to purchase some additional equipment. You're gonna have to purchase the dado brake pad, which is about $119. Then of course you're gonna need an insert for your dado blade. That was $75. I think there's aftermarket ones. I don't know. I was at the store. I went ahead and bought it. So you're looking at about $200 to use dados. If you don't use dados, you don't even have to worry about it. Me personally, I use dados a lot. What the saw comes with right off the bat, well, it comes with your fence system, obviously. It comes with a little miter gauge. I don't know how good this is. I don't know whether I like it yet or not. It's a little different than the Delta one. I've got to look into that and read about it. It comes with one of these push sticks. Y'all, this push stick is trash. Hold up. Okay, maybe that's a little extreme. Let me explain why I'm throwing away a safety item. I don't personally care for these. I feel like when you're pushing on one end of the piece and it's a longer piece, the blade is turning that way. It could very easily grab that piece, flip it up into you. I don't know if that's a thing, but this is commonly discussed and debated on different groups, whether this is good or not. I prefer something that gives me a wider length of push down power on the piece. I make these out of 3/4 inch plywood. You can see I just cut a notch, put a little generic handle in there, have 2 or 3 of these. They can get cut up by the blade. It doesn't matter. I throw them out and make more of them. Really no big deal. There's another option I use on bigger sheets where my hand's a little further away from the blade. It's also tilted away from the blade, and I can push it through there. I will use one of these sometimes in combination with this. Maybe if you have a piece that's going through vertical, you can use this for the downward pressure and the push pressure, and then you could use this piece to keep it up against your fence and run it through safely. Those are your options. Sorry, I had to explain it. I knew somebody in the comments would be like, oh, you shouldn't, throw away a safety item, or why are you telling people not to be safe? That's not what I'm doing. I just want to clarify. Let's carry on. I'm not going to keep that. It does come with a splitter with a blade guard, anti-kickback pawl attached to it. I look in this, I never used this before on my last saw. Too often gotten away with a lot of the cuts that I made. I'll check it out on this. It is good to use if you can, and doesn't bother you. But thing with that, it does come with 2 wrenches to change your blades. This is something different than the Delta. The Delta had a little push button lock, blade lock, and then you could change your blade with that. That was convenient. However, I think this is probably indicating a more robust system, and mechanically, I think this is probably a better way. And I think the more you put with those little automatic locks and stuff, the more issues that can happen with that. So that's probably why SawStop is going this way. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, just my guess. And it does come with the blade spacing adjustment tool. It's magnetic. I have not read about this or know anything about it. I do know that when I was at the retail shop, that the gentleman said that there has to be roughly the width of a quarter between the blade and the brake system for this. So I'm assuming that this is to adjust that width and tighten it down. I'll get to that whenever I look and read through my manual. Another reason why it's important to read your manual on this SawStop is with this type of system where it has the automatic brake system and safety system. There's a lot of things you need to know to make sure you don't accidentally trigger the brake system. Just from the little bit I've read now, like you got to really make sure that the blade doesn't touch your fence. So when you're making close cuts to your fence, it's going to be important, which I've always used anyways, have some type of spacer between your fence and your blade, which like I said, I've always done, so I'm not worried about that. Also, wet wood. It has some specific information about wet wood and making sure that it's not too wet. And there are some safety systems I haven't got to yet again, about how to check to see if the wood is too wet before you cut the wood. That way you're not throwing that brake accidentally and costing you a lot of money. That's it. I hope this is helpful to y'all. This was not meant to be a step-by-step, just kind of a little overview and seeing what it was to put it together and maybe give you some tips and stuff as I go along. So hope you enjoyed it. If you do, hit the like, subscribe, whatever. I'm hoping to get some more long format videos out soon. I've been quite busy the last few months with a lot going on, but that's all I got. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Y'all take care. I'll see you next time.